strong, and that's why people tend to take that hit, but of course it wears off over time, and once you've been in the industry for 10 years, you sure as hell don't want to go back to doing those, killing yourself for lower pay to try and prove yourself, like I'm done with trying to prove myself. So you don't have to match salaries, but you do have to try and remunerate fairly. And I think what's been more important for us is to know that we've got a process in place for how I'm going to advance in my career. How I'm going, at least we have standards now for, yes, your salaries are going to be upgraded on a regular basis, and also here's a position that you're going to be able to go to. One of the things I like about 2K at least is just that we have the ability to have seniors who don't have to go into management. And I don't think that's a unique concept to us, but that's been really important, I think, to retain people. But yeah, that's all I really want to say about it. Penny?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, because people are so passionate, it is easy to get people cheap. You just have to be willing to recognise that, you're investing in your staff, and, if you keep churning over these cheap staff, you're not really getting anywhere. It's worth rewarding those people for their effort and their, contribution. And, I think the games industry as a whole does pay, a lot less than it should. There, I said it. And yeah, I mean, I think hopefully over time it will start to align itself more with, other IT sectors and other private industries.
I think from talking to a lot of my colleagues, especially artists, I think a lot of it's up to them going out and getting it as well. Because I think a lot of artists, because they're in a good job and they kind of like what they're doing, they really like what they're doing and stuff, so they're not, and if they don't have, if that personality doesn't have that get out and get another 10 grand, sometimes people just sort of stagnate and they don't, whereas people really have to learn to get out there and just take it and go, right, and actually go into your, your review and go, right, this is what I've done this year, I've done this, this is what I've done, I've worked really good, give me another 10 grand, you live.
Ideally, management should be proactive about that, though. Hopefully, people shouldn't have to walk into the office and actually go in and fight. You don't want to create a culture where it's only this squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I think it's about that setting expectations thing again. That's part of the review process, is to say at the beginning of the process, if you manage to achieve these things over this time, you're going to get the salary bump, or we're going to give you a position change or more responsibility or whatever, so they understand what they're working to. And then checking that, don't just wait until the next giant review. Check where they're up to partway through as frequently as you can, and encourage them to do the things that they're supposed to do to advance themselves.
It's been one really difficult thing that we still been tackling, kind of, have a good review process that people understand and works.
Yeah, getting the expectations right in the first place. We've now, I don't know how many different types of review process we've been through, but and we're still trying to find them. But yeah, setting up an expectations matrix that's realistic and actually matches what your real expectations are, that survives longer than 6 months, has been really difficult for us, because roles just tend to change and mutate.
And number 10.
So I guess we've talked a lot about expectations. This one's really about promising what you think you can deliver. There's a lot of external factors which may make a liar out of you when you promise something, and people need to understand sometimes that you're not going to be able to deliver something that you promised to them just simply because, God knows, economic downturn or whatever. I prefer that you try to promise only what you really trust that you can deliver. Don't promise. You can still talk about things that you think are likely, but don't promise them. Don't say you are guaranteed to get this role in 6 months if you do this thing if you don't really believe it. Most of the time, I think when I've made this mistake, whenever I've made this mistake, it's not maliciousness again. But I do know that I've seen some examples where it has been malicious, where it's been, I'm going to promise this guy something, and it's complete bollocks. The man who's making the promise knows that he's never going to live up to it, but he's just trying to get over a particular short-term hurdle, and he'll deal with the morale consequences afterwards when he has to turn around and say no to that guy. But I was the only one that had anything down for this. Does anybody else have any examples of that?
No.
Bam.
Is that the last?
That was the last one. So if you ever work for a place that does everything we've just talked about, probably not work there anymore.
Can you join me in thanking Andrew Penny and Zach? Now, because we've come out of